What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Entrepreneurship Sucks podcast with Kevin and Josh. Today, we got an absolute rock star to talk to, and we're going to be diving into the extraordinary journey of Mr. Bryan Dulaney. And before we dive into the episode, I just want to tell you a little bit about Mr. Bryan here. He's an entrepreneur, world-class marketer, and a miracle. He had a near-death experience in 2003, and he was given a second chance at life with a divine mission to help others share their stories, build legacies, and create lasting impact. With over $500 million in total revenue generated for his clients and himself, Bryan and his team at the Perfect Funnel System have helped thousands scale to even seven and eight figures as one of the top 1% marketers worldwide. And he's a leading ClickFunnels super affiliate. He's earned 5 cars and over $1 million in affiliate commission and is ranked among the top partners for Tony Robbins, Dean Graziosi, and Russell Brunson. Ladies and gentlemen, help me welcome Mr. Bryan Dulaney. How you doing, man?
Awesome, man. Great to be here.
Yeah,
Looking
for sure,
forward to
man.
the conversation.
Happy to have you.
Most recently, I want to plug that Bryan and his wife are the co-authors of their new book, One Funnel, One Offer, 1 Million in 1 Month. And Joshua and I are extremely excited to incorporate what we're learning from this book into our 2025 marketing strategies and take things to the next level. So without further ado, man, we like to kick off the episode the same way. Obviously, the name of the podcast is a little polarizing, and everyone has like a different reaction to the invitation, right? They're like, entrepreneurship sucks. So I always like to ask our guests, just to kick things off, like, what is your interpretation of entrepreneurship sucks?
Yeah, it's polarizing, which is good because in marketing, if you don't stand out, you don't get viewed or visible, or you don't get attention. So I think it's smart. That's my first take on it. Um, but yeah, entrepreneurship can suck at times. It's like I always say it's like a roller coaster, right? There's times that where you're high and you're exhilarated, and there's times where it's an absolute struggle grind, especially when you start in this journey as an entrepreneur, like especially when you start. I promise it gets easier as you keep moving forward. I think the biggest thing for me is that people give up too soon. They, are 3 feet from gold and then they throw in the towel. And it's the most heartbreaking thing of all of it is that, this is a journey. It's a game and a journey. And so if you're not failing forward, you're not doing it right. So that's my take on entrepreneurship sucks. It can suck, and it can also be really awesome.
Oh, man, especially when you're crushing it like you are, man. But you had to go through the suck to get to where you're at now. So
It wasn't always. Wasn't
yeah,
always.
Yeah. So
I'm sure we're going to
let's
dive into that today, right?
that's
Yeah,
exactly
absolutely.
it.
That's what I was just gonna say is like, let's just start at the beginning. I always like to ask people, I I believe we're born entrepreneurs, and it's just a matter of like if you accept the calling or not. So like, what was that calling? Where'd you catch the bug?
I agree. So when I was a little kid, my dad was an entrepreneur. My great grandfather was an inventor. He invented a fishing contraption that unfortunately ended up selling. He partnered with an attorney. The attorney ended up cutting him out of the deal and selling the thing for $3 million, and my grandfather made nothing. So my big lesson was always have contracts and always have your own attorney.
Mhm.
That was a lesson for my great grandfather. But I was always around entrepreneurship because my dad was an entrepreneur. So even though he wasn't always an entrepreneur his whole life, he became an entrepreneur and just figured it out. I mean, straight school of hard knocks. My dad, you know, didn't go get degrees, and he didn't go that track. My dad had a pretty rough, upbringing. But he went into business with his brother and just figured it out. But for me, when I was a little kid, I always remember thinking about ideas that I thought were good ideas that weren't available yet. And I'd always have these crazy ideas like, hey, Dad, what do you think about this? Or, hey, what do you think about that? And these would be things that didn't exist, right? And so when I was in third grade, I started selling Jolly Ranchers. It's like third or fifth grade, somewhere around there. I was really young. And I didn't have any money. So I talked my mom into going down to like the local Rite Aid or whatever it was called, the local pharmacy, and they sold Jolly Ranchers. I was like, okay, like kids would love this. Like I love it. I'm sure other kids would love it. The stuff they have in the vending machines and like they sell in school, it's complete trash. I was like, they don't want that, And so I got my mom to front me the cash to buy my first box of Jolly Ranchers. And within a couple of weeks, my whole book bag was full of Jolly Ranchers, and I had stacks of Jolly Ranchers I was carrying into school. And then I got the knock on the door, like, hey, the principal needs to see you. I'm like, huh, what's the principal need to see me for? He's like, hey, listen, I love this entrepreneurial spirit. He's like, but you can't sell that here. It's like, this is a nonprofit, institution. And my smart ass remark was, well, they're selling pretzels, like, because like there's like a school program to sell pretzels. I was like, they're selling pretzels. And then I was like, the stuff that you're selling, they don't want. Like, I'm just giving them what they want. And I just marked it up. It was like I'd pay like 10 cents, mark it up to 25 cents. So that's how I started getting more boxes. I took the first investment, bought 2 more, just started doubling my box loads,
Crazy.
That didn't last long.
Without even realizing it, you were finding a problem and providing a solution, which is exactly the core of entrepreneurship.
It is. Yep.
I love it.
Giving them what they
That's
wanted
awesome.
too. I mean,
Yeah. So, that went on for a year. But I remember, even thinking about silly things. I was like, Dad, I was really young. I was like, Dad, I was like, you had like the cough drops, like, you unpackage it, throw it in your mouth, like a lozenge. I was like, it'd be really cool if we had them on a stick, like have a cough drop on a stick, and no joke. Like I said the idea out loud, and about 2 weeks later, I saw them for sale in the store. My dad's like, well, yeah, he's like, it was a good idea, but someone else beat you to it. Keep thinking, But my dad always
you have that visionary element, right? Of like seeing things before they come. That's awesome. Like Joshua's, helped me a lot with my walk in faith because I'm a born again Christian, and his father's a pastor of like 50 plus years. So we've had a lot of conversations about like, I had when I was going to the church that I used to go to, they had a prophet come in and he, prophesized over me, and he said that I was a seer, and it started to make sense. I'm like, I definitely like, as an entrepreneur, I'm more like visionary of like what I want to see in the future, and I've had to dial it back to like solving immediate problems and then working towards those things, and it's helped a lot, obviously. But yeah, man, I love that.
yeah.
So that
From
that's
slinging
like what, elementary school, yep, and
from slinging Jolly Ranchers to
yep,
manifesting
yep,
lollipop cough drops.
to the biggest 2 comma club award you can get, right?
Yeah, right.
Well, actually,
I was selling e-commerce
do you have
technically.
do you have a
Oh
Two Hearts
man.
award as well? That's our goal, the Two
Yeah,
Hearts award.
that's the goal. Yep.
Yeah,
Yep. Yep.
beautiful, man.
Working on it.
So
Yeah.
like, so where'd we go from there? Jolly Ranchers, lozenges,
Well,
popsicle, I mean,
well,
lollipop.
well, from there, actually, I went to Pentec Pencils. So it was like maybe a year later. And I don't know if you remember, like, so I was born in 83. I don't know where you guys are at in the spectrum.
84.
84. Okay.
Yep.
Fully
Josh,
autistic.
you're obviously younger. Um, so Pentec Pencils, there's this thing called Pencil Wars. And basically what you do is you'd rip off the eraser, you tighten it with your teeth, and you like play this game, and you'd like
Yep.
play to beat other people. I don't know if you remember that or not, but it was like a
Yeah, man.
fad.
Yeah.
So
One person would hold the pencil and the other person, you'd take turns, and whoever broke the other person's pencil first won. Yeah.
Yep. So I bought, I started buying pencils and started slinging pencils. And so, those were easier to conceal. And, I'm not going to get in trouble for selling something that everybody uses.
Yeah.
Right?
Who's going to see your contraband and know it came from you? Because everybody's using pencils anyway. Right.
You didn't walk in with big boxes of pencils underneath each arm.
No, I could fit all of them in a nice box. So that was my next entrepreneurial journey. And then kind of fast forward a little, my dad was in the trade show industry. He brought together buyers and sellers in the supply chain technology industry. So warehouse management solutions and all these big terms that like I had no clue what it even meant when I was a kid, but it's how things get from, through the supply chain. And he literally built, billion-dollar companies by just bringing people together. And I remember as a kid, I was really into skateboarding, snowboarding, surfing, like all board sports was my jam. And martial arts. So it was like martial arts and then like boarding, like that was my thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I was like, Dad, I was like, there should be a trade show for like snowboard, skateboard, surfing. Like I'll bring Tony Hawk in. He can be like the headliner, and like we'll have all these vendors. They can be like this.
Like I'll call him right now, Tony Hawk. I'll get him on the line. Let's get this going.
So my dad goes, okay, like if you're going to do this, the first thing you need to do is research. He's like, I'll buy you everything that you need, but you need to go buy every magazine in the surfing, skating, and snowboard industry. Dude, I must have had like 300 magazines. It was stacked like 3 foot high by like 5 feet wide. Every magazine in the entire industry. And I started banging the phones, like calling them. The biggest problem was the gatekeeper. I couldn't get past the darn gatekeeper. It was just, but it was old school. I mean, this was like, I remember Yahoo came online for the first time. I was in my dad's office and like Yahoo was brand new, So the internet was like relatively like just brand spanking new at that time. Right. And so yeah, that was a great idea. But I didn't realize the amount of work that would have went into putting that together. And
so did it ever get any legs or?
No, I didn't. I banged a lot of phones. But I didn't have, I was only like working with my dad really part-time, like in the summer. And so I didn't really have the time, I didn't have the right strategy to getting the right people on the calls. There was a lot of roadblocks and I was also working for my dad. So I was working with my dad, shipping out, hundreds of thousands of mailers to the people attending the trade shows. Like his whole strategy was.
This was your summer job with your dad when you were in what, high school? You were like 14, 15? Or?
I was like 13, 14. Yeah.
Cool.
Working on the table, just trying to make up.
Still tax free up until this point, right?
Yeah.
You got your pencils and all this, like.
Yep.
Uncle Sam didn't have a hand in your pocket yet.
Cash only.
Yeah.
Well, can I ask a couple questions about some key points throughout that process? Obviously we're not fully brought up to speed about like the major pivotal points in your entrepreneurial career, but like in those early moments, coming back to like catching the bug, it seems like having an eye for opportunity and like capitalizing on like markups for Jolly Ranchers or pencils and stuff like that, something that you've always had ever since you were a kid. So it sounds like you caught the bug like when you started thinking, you know what I mean? Yeah. And so what were
came online as an entrepreneur, like
yeah, you came out the womb hustling.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. That's awesome, man. Yeah. So between you pounding the phones for leads for that idea that you had with your dad, what was how old were you at that point, by the way?
Well, the Jolly Ranchers was like 3rd, 4th grade.
Yeah.
5th, 6th grade was like the pencils. And then I was like a brand new teen, 13, 14 years old when I was working like helping my dad do the mailers.
Gotcha. So, obviously entrepreneurship at that stage when you're still reliant on your parents and, they're providing for you, can't suck too bad. I mean, you might have the frustration of ideas not coming to fruition, but what was like between you pounding the phone for the magazines and then the next major thing that you like, I guess your first real, business, did that happen like in high school or in college for you? Like what would that next step look like from there?
It actually didn't happen until college. So what happened was, worked for my dad in the summers, and then I went off to college. I went to Slippery Rock University for just business, just general business. Mm-hmm. And there's a whole nother story there. But it wasn't really until I got to Liberty University that I started my first business, like entity. And that was a partnership with 2 other guys whose grandfather invented a waste management product that was a puck that you could throw into waste management centers or you could throw into ponds and it would make them crystal clear. But it was really designed to like reduce waste management. And so we started this company, we started an LLC, made ourselves the partnerships. We were going to be the sales mechanism for the company. So we were going to go lock up the contract with, our visions were casinos, waste management centers, those type of things. And we spent like, I don't know, 6 months. So I moved from Liberty University, which is where I was working on my degree in marketing. I was working on that in Virginia. Then my like junior year, I went online and we all moved. I moved and my buddy Mike moved to Jersey to start this puck company to, reduce waste. And we were there for like, I don't know, 6 months in. And then my best friend at the time, Mike, his uncle was the grandfather's son. Mm-hmm. And basically that guy basically kiboshed the whole thing, was like, no, me and my friends are going to sell this. You guys aren't. So I was like, what the heck, like I literally upended my entire life to come start this company that we were promised by Mike's grandfather. Mike's grandfather was a legend. I mean, owned at the time, like, I don't know, 50 or 60 billboards in like New York and Jersey and a bunch of commercial stuff. And he was totally uneducated. He was like, the A students work for the B students, the B students work for the C students. Older dude, like, you don't need college. What a joke. Like he's like, just quit. This is
stupid. I'm seeing a theme here, by the way.
What theme are you seeing?
But yeah, that's funny, man. It just reminds me of The Sopranos and such.
Oh yeah, they were Italian. Yeah. They were Italian. Yeah. So my buddy Pat. So it was me, Pat, and Mike, and Pat's family was definitely connected to the mafia in some way, shape, or form. But he never talked about it. Like his grandfather.
And so the uncle just came in and was like, "Now this is mine."
Yeah. Well, the uncle was like a total like hedge fund baby. Like he didn't do nothing. He was a trust fund baby. The dude like lived off the grandfather's cash flow and was like pretty much a bum. But when he came in, it was like, what are we going to do? Like we were a bunch of 20-year-olds and you got this guy in his 40s basically saying, no, me and my buddies are going to do it. Like you're not. And so that was a bummer. Like we shut the company down. I went back to Virginia to finish up my degree and kind of pivot to figure out what my next move was going to be, So that was technically my first entity, even though we didn't make a penny.
Well, I don't think mine did either.
So you end up back at school, and you were going to school for marketing, right? So at least that situation worked out in your favor, considering where you're at now, right? And
although I didn't learn crap that I applied in marketing from my marketing degree.
That was my question.
Yeah, exactly.
What a joke.
Yeah, I have a bachelor's degree in entrepreneurship and innovation. Literally, is what my degree says. Nice. And I agree. I learned more at FHL about marketing than I did in 4 years of.
It's a total
college.
Joke, learning from. So what happened was, I got my degree and then I just kept the student loan debt going. So I just rolled right in because I'm not a trust fund baby. My parents didn't pay for my education. I had to go through the loan process and work for it, and. So I just went into my MBA in entrepreneurship, but the reality, hit me is like I'm learning how to be an entrepreneur from teachers that have not ever been entrepreneurs. This doesn't make any sense. Like, what am I doing here? I'm spending $30,000 a year to get to get a degree, right? And I ended up not finishing that master's degree because my online business took off. I started as an affiliate selling other people's stuff, because I didn't have anything else to sell. Like I was like, okay, we'll find other people's stuff to sell. Affiliate marketing was attractive to me because I was in my 20s and I didn't have any products. I didn't have any services.
Where are we now? We're like late 90s, early 2000s?
Yeah, fast forward 2006.
Okay. Yep.
2006. Cool. I had tried to get in, prior to that, I tried to get into real estate investing to create wealth because I was looking for a venue that I could make $1 million a month in. Like that was my big vision. It's like, okay, like how can I get to $1 million a month? I was like, well, I'm not going to get that from a job. Like that's not going to ever happen. So why am I getting this degree? Well, I'm getting the degree because that's what everyone says you should do, right? Like it was really the only reason I was doing it. And it was cool. I met some great people, and, I think that part of the process was great, you know, meeting a lot of people. I went to 3 different universities. I went to Slippery Rock University, went to Clearwater Christian College, and then I went to Liberty University. So that was fun. But in the reality, like looking back, spending $150,000 to go to university was not worth it.
Yeah, no, there's definitely some buyer's remorse. College is everybody's first high ticket offer that they bought.
Yep.
No
And the
clients
client
either.
very low ROI on that investment for most
I
people.
think it's interesting how long you've had the $1 million a month, like in your heart, though. I
Right.
like we're talking about, what, 19 years of like, right? You said 2006 was when you first, like, God put that on your heart, and you're like, I want to do $1 million a month.
Yeah. So here's what happened. So I went before I went into affiliate marketing, I was looking for a vehicle to create wealth. So I first got introduced to network marketing, and it was companies called Quickstar, which was Amway, but they rebranded to Quickstar. And it was there that I realized I opened up this world of opportunity to self development, personal development, right? Like I did not know about personal development until at that point, which was like 2004.
Yeah.
And so I got introduced to the magic of thinking big. I got introduced to Thinking or Rich. I got introduced to Stephen Covey. I got introduced to all this stuff. I'm like, holy, Og Mandino, great book, or great books. I was like, man, where's this been all my life? Like, this is amazing. And I like just fell in love with it. So network marketing was the gateway for me to personal development. Even though I made some money in network marketing, it was nothing like, nothing to write home about. It was, the company had great products. There were some cool people. And more importantly, it opened my eyes to this world of personal development, which quite frankly, I think I should have been introduced to when I was in elementary school, not, college. Right.
Amen,
So,
brother.
and my parents had no clue about it either. Like I had to introduce my dad to personal development. Like he didn't even know about personal development.
Fortunately enough for me, it's the opposite. My dad was in network marketing most of my childhood, and I only saw him on Sundays. So he was very strategic about cramming a week's worth of fathering into one day. And so the best way for him to do that and leverage his time was to introduce me to Jim Rohn and other personal development speakers. He had all the like audio cassette like sets, like the old sets, right?
Yep.
And that was it, man. That unlocked something in me, that
That's
was
awesome.
a trajectory of, I don't know where I'd be right now if it wasn't for that pivotal moment, right? Personal development changed everything for me. And I was about 16, maybe 7. I think he tried when I was like, younger, but it just didn't catch the way that it did around like my, I don't know, sophomore, junior year of high school. And then it just caught and it never went away.
Yeah. All those
So
seeds were planted in you
yeah, man.
at an early age.
Especially Jim, like something about the way that he breaks things down, the way he teaches, his little dad jokes. Like I love that guy.
Yeah. He's
Yeah.
great. Jim's great. So
But
yes,
cool, man.
yeah.
Development. Sorry. Yep.
Yes. Then I went into real estate. I started attending like conferences like what was the big one in New York? The Wealth Expo, where they
Mhm.
had like all these, like Trump was a headliner, and they had like all these, real estate gurus, experts that were teaching things. And
Was
and
Dean there?
I got sold. I don't think so, to be honest. I don't remember Dean being at the Wealth Expo. He might have been, and I just didn't recognize the name or wasn't drawn to his talks.
Yeah.
It was a big venue. I mean, you're talking like 25,000 people here.
Mm-hmm.
Huge event. And so at first I got hooked on this idea of like acquiring real estate to create wealth. And then I was presented with this idea of like commercial real estate. It was like, you don't need it. You don't need your credit. And you don't need your cash flow. I was like, oh, sweet. Like I don't have any credit. I don't have any cash. Like, this is great. Like, let's go to
Sounds
commercial.
like
Yeah, this sounds right up my alley. Right. So I invested my first high ticket at the time. The offer for me, this was high ticket, was $5,000 to attend a workshop with a guy named Scott Shield. And it was like biggest investment I ever made in myself outside of education. It's funny how we look at those two things differently.
Yeah, right.
Um, $5,000, man.
Collide.
Driving to the airport, like sweating, like this is a bad idea. Turn back, like just get a refund, And something in me was just like, just you got to do it. Just go and do it anyways. Just go and do it anyways. And that was my first. It was a boot camp, so it was like 4-day, like deep dive on creative financing, finding deals, like the whole 9 yards. And then what I did was I had started a Christian fraternity at Liberty called, or it was a brotherhood. We weren't allowed to call it a fraternity because it was a Christian university. So it was a brotherhood. And I recruited some of the dudes in the brotherhood to basically hunt for deals for me all around the country. We were looking for stuff that's like performing at 70-80% underperforming, that we can come in, get an investor to put the deposit down and then go buy the deal. And long story short, I mean, we looked at hundreds of deals, but long story short was, went to a conference in Vegas with 50,000 people. It was a big commercial real estate conference with big vendors like CBRE, and the booths alone are like millions of dollars just for these booths. It was impressive. But I met one of the brokers there, and this dude was in his 80s, fully decked out. It was him and his wife, and fully decked to the nine. And he was, there was no one in his booth. So I went up to him like, "Hey, I'm Bryan. Mind you, I'm in my 20s." And I'm like, I'm looking for this. Is what I'm looking for. Can you help me? Can you help me find this thing? He's like, listen. He goes, and this was like 2005. He goes, "Why do you want to get into commercial real estate?" I'm like, "Well, I want to create wealth." He's like, "Well, commercial real estate's a great way to create wealth." He goes, "But I've done over $2 trillion worth of transactions in commercial real estate in my career." He's like, "I've done deals with Trump. I've done deals, da 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 da." He goes, "The real estate market's about to crash. It's like, this is the worst time for you." He's like, "I've gone through like cycles." He's like, "It's coming. It's just a matter of when." Now, mind you, it's like 2004.
2 years or 4 years before.
4 years before.
Wow. Who
Yeah,
was this guy?
I forget the name. I don't remember the guy's name. I wish I did. But he goes, "Listen, I would go get a job, work for CBRE, learn on their dime, and then get into the thing." And I was like, "Well, that's not an option,
Entrepreneurship
because
hack like crazy.
they're not going to pay me $1 million a year or a month." I was like, "So I don't want to do that. Like, that's not an option." So then that's when I, through my personal development, I started learning from people like Joe Vitale, Yannick Silver, all these guys, these OGs. There's a ton of them. Dan Kennedy, and that's when I learned about this whole concept of affiliate marketing, and you can just drive traffic and sell other people's stuff online from anywhere in the world. I was like, "Well, this is great. It doesn't cost a lot to start up. I can get into it pretty easy. When I perform, I get paid. Cool. Like, let's do that." And that's what got me into this industry in the beginning, was affiliate marketing.
Mm.
Nice,
Wow.
nice. So, what were some of the first affiliate products that like hit for you that like brought you to the next level? And like, what was your first traffic strategy? I would love to know too.
Yeah. So my first traffic strategy was SEO. So it was free traffic. Mind you, remember at the time I was in college working on my MBA, up to my ears in student loan debt. I was also a part-time personal trainer making $15 an hour on the side. So I didn't have a bunch of cash. Like, I wasn't sitting around with money to really throw at advertising. And free traffic at that time was like the hot traffic source. Free traffic, right? So I just learned everything I could about SEO. The very first sale I ever made was a software. It was Mike Filsame's product called Butterfly Marketing. So that was like the first sale I ever made. And it was a $2,000 product. I got paid $750 in commissions. And I say it's by the grace of God that I made the sale in the first place, because my domain name was not related to it at all. Okay. My domain name was fitrichlife.com, because I thought it'd be cool to mix like wealth and fitness together. And I ranked on Google. Someone happened to search for butterfly marketing, and they happened to search for, click on Fit Rich Life. And then the site was completely curated content. I had a software that sucked content in, and I could just change the links out. That's literally all I did. I just changed links.
Yeah. Just like easy chaining, right? Is that what it's called back then?
I don't know if it was called daisy chaining. I know you're talking about, it's a little different than that, but it was just scraping content online. And then like true curation is pulling content that's newsworthy, that's relevant, and then adding your spin onto it. Like TechCrunch. TechCrunch sold for what, $200 million. And that's what they did. They aggregated news on tech. So curation is just aggregating content that's new and newsworthy and reposting it, but putting your spin on it. I didn't even put my spin on it. I just changed the links out. So it's by the grace of God that I made that sale because I ranked somehow for the term, and someone clicked on Fit Rich Life, no idea why they would do that, and then bought the program. Nice. So that was the first sale. Then I was like, all right, I like, this is real. Like, I just made $750. I told my roommates, I had some roommates in a townhome we were in, and I was telling them, all like, I just made my first sale online. They're like, yeah, I believe when I see it hit your bank account, and I had to wait like 30 days to pay out, so I was like, listen, like, I made the sale, it's legit. Like, I'm going to keep going deeper on this. So what happened was I started buying more stuff, learning as much as I could about SEO and affiliate marketing. And I bought a software, which back in the day was like ClickFunnels, but it was called Excite Pro. And Excite Pro is just a funnel builder. And so there was a guy giving away bonuses to buy Excite Pro through him. And so with that came like an hour Skype call for consulting, and jumped on the call with him. It was awesome. I was like,
introduction, power of bonus, by the way.
The power of bonuses in affiliate marketing is very key. Yeah. So I got with him. He gave me tons of value. I'm like, dude, how can I get more coaching from you? Like, now, mind you, this guy was making multiple six figures a month as an agency and an affiliate. Okay. So he's doing multiple six figures a month as an affiliate alone. Who knows what he was doing in an agency, but he was doing well. And I was like, dude, I just need to learn from you. Like, what will it take? He's like, well, I don't do coaching. I was like, well, what will it take for you to do coaching? Like, what's the number? Like, I'll figure it out. Like, I need you know how to do this. You tell me what to do and I'll do it. Like, I'm an action guy, like, and so, I talked him into it, and literally from one call, he told me exactly what to do. He's like, listen, if you're an affiliate, you got to find something you're going to make over $500 in commissions from. It's like, if it doesn't have $500 in commissions, you can't do what you need to drive traffic, whether it's paid or free. Like, there's work that goes into driving traffic. And I was like, okay, cool. So he's like, go find products you can sell that have a $500 or more profit margin on it. And so what I did was I found there was a software with a product launch, and that next week I launched a $500 ad campaign, used Google Ads at the time, and made $20,000 in sales, $10,000 in commission, spending $500. Okay. Now that was the moment. That was the moment. JV Zoo, yeah, I think it did exist. And then there was another network of sites that hosted all the big product launches, because product launches were a big deal back then.
Type of thing or something, right?
So like traffic and traffic secrets, as a part of that. And there was all these like basically $2,000 products where the affiliates would make about $1,000.
Nice.
So yeah, that's when I fired my MBA. I was like, all right, I'm done this. I just figured it out.
6 or so, you said? Yeah.
This is like 2006.
Yeah. Cool.
But what happened was I wouldn't say that's the product that took off. But the product that really took off that I was able to scale was a weight loss offer where I get paid $40 to $50 per free trial that I pushed. So I would get paid 45 to 55, depending on the product. I did like acai berry, and I did resveratrol. Resveratrol was a crusher. So I bought resveratrol Ultra was the product. So I bought resveratrolultrareviews.com, put up a 1-page review site, 5 product reviews, and started running Yahoo ads on product specific keywords. And literally that drove about $2,000 to $3,000 in commissions per day. And that was the thing that allowed me to get this under control. So that allowed me to be consistent and scale. But it was only like a couple keywords that were the winners. Like, we had technology back then that you basically set up the tracking in a way if you're running 1,000 keywords, you can whittle down to like here's your only profitable keywords, kill everything else and just run these.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Awesome. And so how long did you run with that for? And then,
I ran
what?
that. Yeah. So I ran that for a good solid like year and a half. I ended up going to a conference. I also had built an iPhone app 2008. So up to like 2008, then I ran an iPhone. We built iPhone apps when iPhone apps like opened their app store. And I was at a conference and I was showing some like this app I built, it was called MyFitPulse. And so the idea was like I was a personal trainer, so I was like, okay, I want a personal trainer on my phone that can tell me what to do, when to do it, and can do everything but lift the bar and yell at me. Like that's what I wanted to do, right? And so we programmed it, and it was at that event that this guy David introduced me to all the heavy hitters. He like went around like, dude, you got to see what this guy developed. There was no app developer. Like we brought on the guy to develop apps. He was a web developer, but he was in our Greek class, and he was like the A++ student. He was like the teacher's pet, but he was really good at coding websites. And we're like, hey, we'll partner with you if you can code apps. He's like, I don't know how to code apps. I was like, we'll go figure it out. So he bought a book, and there was a book like this thick on coding apps. In 2 weeks, he learned how to code apps, and we built our first app called like Gas Hound, which basically showed you in 2008 where the cheapest gas was, because gas was high at that time because of the whole mortgage crisis. And we built an app to anywhere you are in the country, you could find the cheapest gas at any given point while you're on the road. Yeah. So we launched that. And then what happened was at that event, I also met a guy who was a big real estate developer in Aspen, Colorado. And he was the last dude to the event. Like I was on my way out and I was showing someone else my app, and he kind of just moseyed over and just kind of entered himself into the conversation. And he's like, well, what do you do? I was like, well, we've got this app we're building, but I do a lot of affiliate marketing. Anyways, long story short, he's like, hey, well, how about he's like, I want to do affiliate marketing. He's like, I've done real estate my whole life and I'm kind of over it. He was like 65 or something. And he's like, why don't I fly you out to Aspen and we figure out how I can fund your affiliate marketing. He's like, you just do your affiliate marketing. I'll fund your affiliate marketing. I was like, well, that sounds like a great idea. It's like, if I had more budget, I could spend more money. So then I ended up flying to Aspen, my brother and I, and we ended up forming a partnership with Frank, his name was. And we did a lot of affiliate marketing, but I had a vision for building my own product line, building my own brand, and not just selling other people's stuff and building no brand. I was in my 20s. I was like, listen, like this is cool if you're in your 60s. His goal was just to make $40,000 a month net and just have be low key. I was in my 20s. I'm like, I got my whole life. Like I need to build something substantial that I can either sell or I can have a brand that can live on a lot longer. Affiliate marketing is just like, it's on 1 minute, it's off the next. It's just, you're constantly looking for new offers that you can push traffic to, and it's just transactional, so it wasn't really fulfilling to me. But I ended up doing that. Spending a year in Aspen was great. Snowboarding, hiking, mountain bike. That was fun.
Yeah, man. I love snowboarding. I broke my tailbone recently snowboarding.
Ouch.
Yeah, it sucks. It still hurts.
I bet. Yeah, it's brutal.
Yeah.
I'm going snowboarding next week.
Man.
I'm looking forward to the trip.
I bet you are, man. Dude, that's crazy. And we still have some more to go too. So
yeah.
Before we go to the next phase, Kevin, is there anything there you want to dig into?
No, I just so it's like what we're like a year and a half in Aspen, right? So now it's like what 2010 or so.
Yeah, so 2000, it's about 2010. I was in Aspen for a year. My vision at the time was to create a brand called Traffic Tsunamis. And what my idea was to take all the traffic products on the market, instead of having a $2,000 course on Google ads, a $2,000 course on Facebook ads, a $2,000 course on YouTube ads. I was like, listen, why don't I just put this all into one product? And for $2,000, you can learn about all traffic sources, right? The partner of mine was in a high-level mastermind, which I won't mention because it's still around. And I know a lot of the guys that run it at this point. But they went to the mastermind without me because it was him and his wife, and I wasn't able to go. So they pitched my idea. Now, mind you, I was working behind the scenes for 8 months developing out this advanced funnel to sell. It was like 8 different traffic platforms, and so we had one main product, and then we broke it down into individual downsells. And I had built it out through Infusionsoft, which Infusionsoft said I had programmed this to be like more advanced than 99% of their users. We had to hire their programmers to code it all because it was so sophisticated in terms of the nurture sequences and all the things, right? And so, anyways, they go along and they go pitch this idea, and the response I got was, I don't think we need another traffic product in the market. That's what all these guys were saying. Now, mind you, these were a lot of big traffic course guys, right? One dude, this guy Frank, who was a big guy in real estate development, builds mega mansions, $50 million, $100 million homes. He's like, I would give him a shot. He's like, all these guys have a vested interest in this not working. He's like, I would give it a shot. And the reality was, I mean, shoot, there was no TikTok, there was no Instagram. I mean, come on. There was plenty of room for another traffic product in the market. It's that these guys didn't want another competitor.
Yeah, exactly.
Off of the market. That's ultimately what they didn't want. And I know who those guys are, I bust their balls about it now.
Funny.
Awesome. So from there, did you pursue the traffic tsunami?
I didn't. So what happened was, I was like, listen, I was like, affiliate marketing is great, but I want to take this. I want a real brand that I can either sell or scale beyond 40,000 a month. Like, this is not my vision. So I said, I had talked, I wanted to launch basically a supplement line, like a weight loss, colon cleanse, like basically a supplement line. Like, I was like, the stuff I was selling as an affiliate, I wanted to be the product owner, right? They didn't want to do that either. So I was like, all right, it's time to part ways. I'm going back to Pennsylvania to be with my family, to regroup, to rethink, and figure out what my next move is going to be. I came back, ended up connecting with a dude who did a lot of what's called lead arbitrage, which is buying leads or generating leads and selling them off to the affiliate networks, like life insurance, car insurance, home insurance. And so we did that. We got that to like 2,000 to 3,000 a day. But the problem with that was, again, this wasn't a real brand. This was just a money grab at the end of the day. It was like what we were doing was we were buying leads, and then we're reselling those leads and pushing them through the affiliate networks by IP, like hiding IPs and pushing through leads through our affiliate links to the affiliate networks. It's called lead arbitrage, basically, is what it's called. And you buy exclusive leads, semi-exclusive leads, or non-exclusive leads, and then you send them through the system in a strategic way so that you don't get flagged. Profitable, but it wasn't fulfilling. It wasn't rewarding. So that was short-lived, because I was like, I really need to do something that's going to have some meaning. Like, it generates money. Like, that's great. But I was like, there's more. I've got to do something that's actually meaningful. So that was short-lived. That was a couple months. Then from there, I moved. I was also behind the scenes doing local marketing. So I was helping dentists, lawyers, like local businesses, right? Local service businesses, doing SEO, pay-per-click, building their websites, like basically scaling their local brand, getting more leads and sales, right? Then I moved to California. So girlfriend and I, we shipped over to California. At the time, mind you, I was doing a lot of SEO still. So I was doing paid ads and doing SEO. And one of my buddies had built a blog network with 1,000 websites that he allowed me to post content and links to boost my rankings. And in many cases, I can control the whole first page of Google, like top 10, like control the whole thing. So I was like, I got this idea. I was like, what if I sold this as a service and got people to send me their links and keywords that they want to rank for? We'll write their content, we'll post it on the blog network, and then they'll boost their rankings. And so I launched this thing called super fast link building, where prices were $147 a month and $997 a month. Right when we got to California, launched it, okay, spent zero on advertising, and went from 0 to 75,000 or 70,000 a month in recurring continuity in 90 days, not spending a penny on advertising.
Yeah.
Because I did reviews against all my competitors and ranked for all my competitive keywords on the top 10 in Google. That was my strategy. My strategy was to get in front of traffic that was already flowing without spending money for it. And because I had that blog network of 1,000 websites, I was able to rank. In doing so, a dude reached out to me and he was like, hey, he's like, I'm an affiliate for all these blog networks. Like, you look like you've got something good here. Let me test it. And if it works, like, I'll promote it to my database. I was like, cool. Like, I don't know you from Adam. Buy a license and do it, like, use it. So he bought the lowest level, like $147 a month. 2 weeks later, it came back. He's like, dude, your network crushes all my networks. Like, he did this huge blog post review on before and afters. And he's like, everybody needs to know about this. So he just sent a couple of emails and it was like, bam, 70,000 a month of recurring continuity in 90 days. And then Google came out with their first animal update called Panda. And it was an absolute bloodbath. We lost 1,000 websites in 10 days, 100 sites a day. And that 70,000 went to zero in less than 10 days.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
I know Russell talking at one point, like, I think it was like the Penguin smash or whatever, like when everybody got slammed with that too.
Yeah, it was Panda and Penguin. Yep.
Yeah.
And then I went to Hawaii. I said, you know what? I'm going to Hawaii for 2 months to regroup, rethink, and clear my head. And that's when I woke up in the middle of the night and Perfect Funnel System hit me. And a headline was how I helped this guy, Bryan, not Bryan with a Y, but Bryan with an I, use a webinar to sell his personal development course, where we did $150,000 in 90 days with the webinar, selling a $297 course. And so I literally woke up middle of the night, boom, Perfect Funnel System, boom, headline. And I was like, there'd probably be people that would want to know how to use webinars to sell courses. And I created my first information product literally on the beach in Hawaii and started selling it using webinars.
Nice.
Right there.
It's awesome. And so the info product was obviously like how to like generate leads, right? Run traffic.
My info product was how to use webinars to sell courses, and my system of like generate leads, convert sales, and create raving fans. That was what a perfect funnel system is those three big phases. And when I knew I was onto something, as I started to have people like Russell buying the product, I was like, oh, what's he buying this thing? Like, that's when I started to realize I have something.
Back then, you already knew who Russell was. So when you saw that he purchased, you're like, okay, this is
it was someone like Russell. It wasn't Russell, but it was someone like Russell. Gotcha. And when he bought it, I was like, what's he buying this for? And I was like, oh. Then when I really knew I had something is when I went to a mastermind that I was in, and I spoke about the perfect funnel system. And that's when it started generating a lot of conversations around it. That's when I knew I had something.
Where are we now? 2012 or something?
This is like 2012. Funnels weren't a thing. Funnels didn't come around until 2014, end of 2014. I was with Russell at Traffic and Conversion Summit when he was like, hey, I'm launching a new funnel builder. I said, what you calling it? He's like, Success, etc. I was like, Success, etc. What the hell is that?
That's so funny because we just had Jimmy Allen on the podcast yesterday. Do you know Jimmy? Yeah, and he was talking about that product and like how he was a part of that product launch. That's so crazy. And that's the first time I heard it. And now I'm hearing it twice in 24 hours. That's awesome.
Yeah. I was like, bro, Success, etc. Like, what is that? He's like, oh, we're thinking about calling it ClickFunnels. I was like, you should definitely call it ClickFunnels. Then I bought ClickFunnelsBonus.com and ClickFunnelsReviews.com and ClickFunnelsNinja.com that day.
Nice.
You're so smart, man. Dude, I gotta give it to you, man. You represent and embody a true entrepreneur. Like, we've interviewed a lot of founders, a lot of entrepreneurs, and you've got an eye for, because your family, your grandfather and your father were entrepreneurs, and you said your grandfather was the inventor.
My grandfather, my great grandfather, yep.
And so you have this inventive eye for like opportunities and trends and like, but also the tech side of things where you're like, oh, we can make new opportunities. We can take tech and affiliate and inventing tech inside this thing to like, it sounds like you learned coding. You learned
I
how to
did.
build softwares,
I
all
had to
that
learn
fancy
how to build
stuff.
funnels because I didn't have a budget. So I was
Yeah,
like, I'm just going to figure it out.
yeah.
Like,
Drag and drop funnel builders.
yeah.
No,
So
exactly.
I do have a bit of an engineering strategic mind, but then God has gifted me with the ability to see opportunity, um, to see things that will hit, if that makes
Hmm.
sense.
Kevin
Like
has the same thing, like the seer
it's,
identity.
it's definitely a God given gift,
Yeah,
100%.
absolutely.
Because even like with what we did with Tony Robbins and being one of their top affiliates,
Mhm.
Russell was telling me about how he bought mastermind.com for 600 grand, right? And he's like, yeah, we're going to launch this thing. I bought mastermind.com for 600,000. And he was telling me this when I was in his highest level mastermind at the time, before he changed the whole thing. And he was telling us about it. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. Tony, Dean, and Russell. I was like, huh. When he told me that, I was like, my affiliate brain started processing. I said, I wonder if they bought mastermindbonus.com, and they didn't. I was like, sweet, $10, got it.
Yeah.
You know?
And for everybody that doesn't know, except for us three here, is that was my first introduction to Bryan, and that's why I mentioned, you realize the power of bonuses in your affiliate products, because the main reason, right? So my twins had just been born, and we'll go back because there's stuff we want to cover before we get to the mastermind stuff. But
Yeah.
my twins were just born, right? And so I had gone from making close to six figures a month with a successful e-commerce business because I figured out traffic on Instagram way before anybody else. And I had a network of like upwards at its peak, I had about 400 meme accounts that for pennies on the dollar, $1 in, $20 out, I was able to drive. I was in the top 1% of all Shopify stores in the world for traffic, and I wasn't running any paid ads. I was just using meme accounts on Instagram, right?
Nice.
But when we found out we were pregnant with twins, my grandmother went into the hospital and was in there for like 60 plus days. And all that happened all at the same time. So you unknowingly, you were my hopping back into the game in a different arena. And your
Nice.
bonuses, were the reason that I went with you and your partner. And that, basically was the beginning of to where I am now. So I just want to let you know that like you had a real impact on the shift in where I needed to go, which
Awesome.
was awesome.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so let's go back though. So we left off and it was it was like what we're at like 2012 or so, right?
Yep.
Or 14.
2000, 2014 was ClickFunnels, but 2012 is when I lost the blog network service and
Yeah,
then
yeah.
built out Perfect Funnel System as an education product.
Love it. Okay. And so what happened from there? And at any point, so far, this sounds like such an awesome ride. Like, where's the suck? Like, what happened? Like,
It
well, you
sucked
got
losing
okay.
70,000 a month in recurring continuity, of
Yeah.
which I was about to scale to $1 million a month because I had Mike Phil Same, I had big affiliates that I had given the service away for free just to prove that it worked. And they
Hmm.
all had just reported back that their rankings were crushing it. And they were like,
Hmm.
this thing's crushing it. When can I promote it? And it was the next week where it was like everything crumbled.
The pain. Yeah.
So I was like right there. I was like, I mean, it was devastating, you know?
Hmm.
Um,
And
and
so in
yeah,
that, what did you take from that, right? Like, what did you learn in that moment? Like, what was the lesson for the next time?
my lesson was to never rely on free traffic ever. you know, master paid advertising that I can control. That was the lesson. That was the lesson.
Mm.
That was the big lesson there.
So how did you get back out of that? Like, what, like when that happened, where did
So,
things go from there?
so yeah, so I mean, I went to Hawaii, came back, built out the perfect funnel system, and then I had through the mastermind landed a client who was a vacation company, and mind you, like reversing early on in my career, like I was an affiliate first. I landed my first ever client in about 2007. There was a water purification, like a water ionization company. I didn't land that client by trying to get them as a client. I just wanted to be an affiliate because I love their product. And I ended up like starting a service business happenstantially. Because I was like, hey, like I love your product. Can I sell your stuff and you pay me commissions? They're like, well, you can buy like 10 units at $1,000 and sell them for 2,000. I was like, no, I'm not buying nothing. I'm not buying inventory. Like, what are you talking about? I was like, I'm going to send you buyers and you're going to send me $1,000 commit check. Like, that's how this is working, you know? And the guy's like, dude, that sounds amazing. But like, we don't have that set up. And so that was my first ever client. So I was up until this point, like fast forwarding, I was an affiliate and an agency owner essentially, because I was serving other people to drive traffic, leads, sales, you know, all the things. Now, fast forward, I landed this vacation company. The vacation company was doing like 1.5 million a year, and they brought me in to basically architect a perfect funnel system for their business, and they wanted to take it to the next level. So they flew me out to Florida, stayed up in one of their resorts, and mapped out a plan. And long story short was we took that company from 1.5 to 5.3 million in 6 months. So we just exploded the traffic, the sales. I mean, all the hinges were flying off the machine. I mean, it was just going crazy. My vision was to take it to $100 million company. I saw a very clear path to that, to getting there. Problem was we had to up level the team because the dude hired a bunch of his family and a bunch of friends, and they were not suited to take that ride to 100 million. And reality was he was comfortable at just doubling the business. So he was like, well, he thought like doing 3 million a year would have been like his, would have been amazing. Like he was over the moon at doing 3 million. I had just cracked, 5.3, and he's just like, he's like, yeah, he wanted to go slower and he didn't want to fire his buddies. That's really what it boiled down to. So that was a short-lived stint. I then kind of let that go, came back to California. Now, mind you, I was between Florida and California. So I'd spent 2 weeks in Florida, 2 weeks in California, helping this company scale, and came home, then come to find out the girl that I was dating for 3 years was cheating on me. So I came back to that. I came back to finding out that she was unfaithful. And so my whole world at that point had, really crumbled because I had seen myself, we went through a lot of ups and we went through a lot of downs, and we were as if we were married. We spent we were together 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. I mean, we went to the gym, we went to events, we worked together. Like we were, together all the time. Most married couples are not together that much. It's the equivalent of being married for 7 years is how much we were together. So that was a pretty big blow. So I lost it was like a 50 to 60,000 a month, income from that company that I helped to scale. So lost that and found the girl that I was dating, was cheating on me, unfaithful, of which when I was in Florida, God had whispered it in my spirit that was happening. I didn't want to believe it, but God nudged me that was going on. I wasn't ready for it yet, I guess. So from there, I went home to regroup kind of with my family. My sister had twins. I wanted to be around for that. And I was at home and I woke up one morning and I had this thought, do what you know works. And the vision that I had behind it was to build a site where I could be an affiliate, but I could also service people who need help with generating leads and sales. Right. And so I started a site called Optimize Press Ninja. Optimize Press Ninja, the objective was to position a done-for-you service business in front of the people that were searching for using that software, and also selling Optimize Press, right? So we built the site. We were about ready to launch it. And I was like, all right, we'll test $15 a day ad budget on Google. And when people hit our site, we'll have a phone number available, live chat available, and a form to request a quote available. And we'll just take orders, basically, right? 3 days after building the site, the whole thing, right? The homepage, the about us page, the portfolio page, like all the things, right? I go to launch the ad campaigns and all I see is a white screen. I'm like, what in the world's going on here? Like optimizepressninja.com, white. I'm like, something's got to be wrong. Is like the internet down or something? Like, what's going on here? I tested another site. It's like, no, it's fine. And so I hit up my server company. I was like, hey guys, like what in the world is going on? Like we just built the site. Like, where is it? They're like, oh, you didn't get the email? I was like, what email? Like, no, I didn't get any email. It's like, oh, we upgraded the servers. And if you didn't have anything saved in the last 2 weeks, like it's gone. It's like, it's gone. You think you could call? Like, you could have called me. Like, you got to be kidding me, you know? But there was like this urgent gut feeling that like I had to do it. I had to just rebuild it. It's like, all right, I have to do this. Like, this is what I feel prompted to do. And so my brother and I, we banged it out again. But this time it was better because we already did it once, right? It was like a second at bat. So we did it again. We made it better. And we launched ads for $15 a day. That $15 a day ad budget, which is only $450 a month, we started making more than that in commissions from selling optimized press. And we started making 10, 20,000 a month in the service side. So I was like, cool. All right. I'm back on my feet again. I'm going back to California where I really want to be. I don't want to be in Pennsylvania. Although I love my family, I don't want to be here. So I flew myself back to California. And that's when I put a lot more attention into optimized press and scaling that and getting clients. Then I was at Traffic and Conversion Summit, talked to Russell. Now, Russell knew that I had dabbled in building funnel technology too, because in 2013, I built a WordPress builder that was to compete with Optimized Press, because Optimized Press, the biggest problem I had with it was that everyone's funnels looked the same. It was all old school direct response, red headlines, black text, basic containers, and it was just ugly. I was like, this is killing me, like aesthetics do matter. And so I partnered with a guy who was the designer to all the biggest product launches you've ever heard of. Traffic, Frank Kern, John Reese. He was Russell's designer. He did Russell's gym mural. His name is Roberto Cicchetti. So Roberto's an artist. So him and I partnered up. We created this thing called Aventus. Now, this is a year before I was with Russell. We launched it, did pre-launch, sold like $50,000 worth of it. It's like, cool, this is awesome. Like, we've got something here. Like, people want this thing. And then he went off on a spiritual hiatus and became a Buddhist monk. Oh, great! I just lost my designer. Like, how am I going to do this? So I folded that up. So Russell, when I met him at Traffic Conversion Summit, he's like, yeah, I'm working on this new funnel builder. I'd known Russell before that because I was an affiliate for stuff of his, and he had known about me. That's when he told me about ClickFunnels. He's like, hey, we're launching this thing called ClickFunnels. Do you want to try it? It's like, yeah, of course. Like, shoot it over. And so that's when we started diving into using ClickFunnels and using that to build funnels over Optimized Press or even our own platform.
Awesome. Wow. And then you started being an affiliate for ClickFunnels.
Started being an affiliate for ClickFunnels right out of the gate. I remember I had ClickFunnelsBonus.com. I had ClickFunnelsReviews.com. So I built simple web pages, got them to rank on Google, started running traffic at ClickFunnels keywords, started putting up my site as a done-for-you ClickFunnels builder right out of the gate. Because it worked for Optimized Press. So I was like, well, it worked for Optimized Press. It's going to work for this. And then I just started gunslinging. People would hit me up. I need a website. I need a webinar funnel. I need a membership site. And it was just straight wild, wild west. I mean, quite frankly. So we were just taking requests. What do you need built? We'll build it. And that's what I did for years. And then in 2016, a guy came in and we had a process that we had built where we literally went from just like taking orders and building to then being like, hold on a second, we should probably have some thought that goes into the build. Like, we shouldn't let these people dictate what they want to build. So I put in a process where they had to do a day with me where we'd architect it. I was like, no one just goes and like wants to build a dream house and then they run to Home Depot and hire a bunch of orange aprons and then send them out to the field to build the house. Like, You have an architect, and then you hire a general contractor that has a bunch of people, and then they build it. Like that's how it works in the real world. I was like, why are we doing that differently in the online space? So I put into a process where we do a day, then we do a build period, then we launch them, right? And then kind of fast forward a little bit, like as I was kind of dialing that process in, up until this point. And so 2003, I died and came back to life, which you kind of briefly talked about in this earlier in this interview.
Yeah, we didn't even touch on that. We went right past that.
And we went past that. We didn't go deep into that. But I did die and came back to life from a fraternity hazing. And through that experience, I felt like God saved my life and I was called to a bigger purpose. 2 years into trying to figure out what my purpose was, God said, I want you to share your story and help others share theirs. Up until 2016, I had no clue what that meant. And I had this spiritual tug of war that was happening in my life where I was like, why am I marketing, building funnels, advertising, selling online? Like, why am I doing all this stuff? How is this connected to why God saved my life and has me here on earth? And it was this tug of war. I mean, it was a battle for a decade from 2020.
What you didn't see is that these were all the prerequisites that he was training you on to be able to be ready to do that. That's beautiful.
100%. And so Dr. Todd came across my office. He came in for a day with me. We sat down. We mapped out his whole brand, his vision, his campaigns, all the things. And his goal was to eradicate waterborne illness in the country of Liberia. And instead of begging churches for money, he wanted to raise the money himself through funnels and through coaching and through education. That's why he was there. And that's when the light bulb went off. It's like, oh, like share your story and help others share theirs. I'm helping him share his story so he can raise money to eradicate waterborne illness in the country of Liberia, which is a pretty, as Jerry Falwell would say, BHAG, big, hairy, audacious goal. Like that's a huge vision that required $10 million to do, right? And that's when my business took off like a rocket. When I was able to connect my spiritual calling to my business purpose, once I realized that those two were connected, that spiritual tug of war, that if any of you have gone through it, like, you know what I mean? It's like, why are you doing what you do to make income? How is it connected to a higher calling? Right? Like that period of time absolutely sucked because I was, quite frankly, felt like, God had a bigger plan and purpose for my life. When God showed me the vision of sharing your story and help other people share their story, I would have these visions of stadiums full of people and me releasing a message to those people. I was like, how in the world is this connected? Like building funnels and launching offers and selling online, like advertising. Like I just didn't see the connection. And I guess I wasn't meant to see the connection.
Wasting time making money almost, right? Which is like...
Right. And I thought like leading up to that point, I was like, okay, well, I'm just going to make a bunch of money so that I can pour it into ministry. Mm-hmm. That's what I thought. I was like, oh, I'll be in the kingdom in business, and then I'll raise money to do the ministry later. That's what I thought. Was, and I didn't realize that they were like directly connected. So that was awesome. A huge moment.
Yeah. So that was a huge turning point. And then, so go ahead, Josh, you were going to say something?
Yeah, sorry, I just realized I was muted. It sounds like, that God has given you some gifts and some talents, obviously, that are more useful and productive in ways than just making money, Like, sure, the capital helps, fund ministry, but it's like the difference between me just setting up an auto tithe and actually going and getting involved with the local FCA and becoming a character coach for students in high school,
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
100%.
So once that tug of war ended and the alignment truly like crashed together, then where are we now? We're in like 2016. Okay.
2016.
So that was only 3 years before I joined Mastermind.
Yep. So at that moment, I said, I'm no longer serving everyone. I'm serving experts who have a greater mission and an assignment to make a greater impact in other people's lives. Right? Because prior to that, I was serving e-commerce brands, local brands. I mean, all types of other stuff that did not have a direct connection to someone who had a story that could make an impact.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Because I thought that niching down would limit my income, which I think a lot of people think that, right? Like, don't niche down. I need to serve everybody. I need to cast a wide net, and, so for me, at least I can speak on my own experience. I think it was a combination of being comfortable with doing what I do and having it be connected to my spiritual calling that allowed me to really like go deeper. I think that was part of it. And then the other thing was like just turning things away when it wasn't in alignment with that calling. Right. And then all of my communication and my advertising campaigns and everything, it now began to pin down into experts. So I was able to get more clear in my communication and my narratives, which is actually the most important thing about any campaign, is the narratives of your campaign and speaking to that audience that most resonates with that narrative. Mm-hmm. Right. I always say it's not about the funnel. It's about the narrative. Then it's about the offer. Then it's about the funnel.
Cool. So you went from kind of, it's like the movie Yes Man, right? It's like you said yes to every opportunity that you thought was going to get you where you wanted to go until you got on that like laser focused momentum, and then you shifted and it started to become about saying no to all the opportunities and only focusing on things that were aligned with the path that you were on.
Yep. 100%. Yep. And it was over time. My narrative began to just get more laser focused.
Yeah. It started to mold and form into what,
I mean, I went from, Optimized Press Ninja funnel builder to ClickFunnels Ninja funnel builder. It began to shift, and I started to see that like people would recognize like, oh, you build funnel. Even Russell, he's like, oh yeah, you build funnels. And I was like, well, I do a lot more than that. Like that's just 5% of this thing. Like if you think I only build funnels, we've got a marketing problem. We've got a message problem. Like I do a lot more than that. If that's what you think, I need to change my communication of what's coming out, and it took time. It didn't happen overnight. It took time.
Yeah, that's where we are, man. That's going through the same thing. Like it's taken time, but we've pretty much narrowed down, our narrative and our story and our messaging. And yeah, like it does take a while. But sorry, Kevin, what were you about to say?
No, yeah. I mean, and mind you, Josh, we're only a year and some change in, so yeah, it's going to take a little bit of time for sure.
It evolves. Sure. It evolves, and the interesting thing too is like in 2005, I went through a process where it's like the scales came off in a way of being able to see the vision and hear him speak to me. There was that like my first, like God also said, write a book. And I want you to write a book about the process that you went through to be able to hear me. Like my first book is called Entrepreneur Evangelist. And ultimately the premise of that book is how to hear God speak. But that's not how I don't sell it that way. But in 2005, God's like, you're going to write a book about this. And it's going to be, you have to write this one first. Like you're going to write more, but this one has to be the first one out. But to think that like I would have been ready to publish that book in 2005 is ludicrous. Like I wasn't ready. Like the vision was there, but I wasn't ready for the vision to come to life. I mean, it wasn't until 2019 I actually published the book.
Wow.
Think about that.
Yeah, crazy.
And the book would have been like a tenth of the size if I would have published it in 2005.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah. It's something that I always like reference to, when you have things on your heart and they take a lot long, like basically like you don't know how big the oasis is that God is trying to fill with you. Right. And so what you may envision to be something that you want to accomplish over the next year, there may be 10 other things that you need to experience, go through, learn, overcome, level up to be able to be who he wants you to be able to do that thing.
Yep. Yep. And sometimes that's part of the suck, right?
Absolutely.
Sure
As
is.
entrepreneurs, especially when we reach levels of success, and have to, like, when we get momentum and then we have to slow down, like, that is the most, like, humbling and frustrating period. It was definitely rough for me from 2019 to like 2022, 23, because I had gone from making close, on average, like 60, $70,000 a month with my e-commerce store to now, like, I needed to shut down the business because we had twins. And I'm just like, my wife and I would work 20-hour days and with all the energy in the world, but we just didn't have, that wasn't possible for us anymore.
Yeah.
And so, like, I had to go back. I had to, like, really humble myself, and, like, I gotta get a job. I'm great at sales. I got to go back to sales to get myself back to where I need to be,
Yeah.
to start my next business. So, I think, what was it, like, in 2019 is when I joined Mastermind, and then didn't, I didn't have the mental and emotional bandwidth yet to be all in on that because my girls were just born. And so, great introduction back into, like, high ticket and entrepreneurship and everything, but I didn't make the most of it with the bandwidth that I had. But that led me to, flying out. I was like one of like 250 people that applied to be a closer for Billie Jean. And so I flew out, I took out two credit cards prior, like, just to get out there.
Oh, snap.
Um, and so because I made it into the top 25 out of like 400 people. So he's like, come out, we're going to do a like 5-day boot camp at the, Billie Jean's headquarters. And had I not been a part of the mastermind launch, I probably wouldn't have gotten introduced to Billie Jean and
Yeah.
got on his email list to even be on the path to be able to do that.
Yeah. Because
Um,
Billy was at our event.
yep. Yep.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, man. So, and fast forward, like, I made it into the top 25, made it into the top nine, but I lived in Connecticut. He lived in San Diego. So, like, relocating me was going to be more money than it was to hire some of the people locally. So I
Right.
didn't get it.
Oh man. Oh,
But in the hotel lobby, when I was doing the walk of shame, and I was like, I was sure I was going to get it, right? Made it to the
yeah.
final day. One of the guys who lived locally, he just randomly, he lived locally, so he should have already left, gone home, wife, kid, like, he was supposed to have left already. I already said goodbye to him. We, got to know each other pretty well. He was awesome. And he just, like, randomly made his way into my hotel lobby. And I'm like, hey dude, I thought you went home. Like, what are you doing here? He's like, I don't know. He's like, no, well, now I know. He's like, God just put something on my heart that I needed to take a walk. And,
Huh.
like, now that I see you, I know why I'm here, because I've been thinking about it since I got the job and you didn't. He's like, you definitely should have gotten the job. He's like, here's what, can I do something for you? Like, he's like, I paid $10,000 to be in this guy's program, Cole Gordon. And,
Yeah.
he's like, I don't need to be placed anymore. They were going to place me in a high ticket sales, remote sales job. And he's like, so I'm going to give you the link to book a call and just get on the call with them. Like, you won't even be in their system, but just get on the call with them and tell them everything that happened this week. And he's like, I guarantee they'll place you.
Wow.
And they did. And
Wow.
I started working for Matt Decino. I became Matt Decino's closer, if you know Matt from HL
Yeah.
Pro Tools.
Yep.
And I worked for him for a year. And then a year later, I was like, I want to sell higher ticket. And that's where Joshua and I met. And,
Nice.
here, you know, ran a 7-figure sales team together for about a year and a half. And then we were trying to solve an internal problem, which, was churning and burning appointment centers, and
Yeah.
ultimately was the birth of what we do now, which is AI sales infrastructures for sales teams.
Nice.
So crazy. And it all started with you. It's so crazy.
Yeah.
Like, you're
All started with
this,
that bonus offer.
absolutely, because that was shift. I mean, I got the perfect webinar kit back in like 2015 in the mail. Like, I was already like, but in the e-commerce space, funnels just weren't there yet. They were still two different worlds, right?
Yeah.
And so I'd tried to dabble in I tried to build the funnel for my best selling product, because that was like 90% of our revenue was coming from this one product in its different variations. And I was just horrible at funnel building. This girl wanted to charge me $7,000. I'm like, I can't do it right now. But anyway, so yeah, but that was it, man. That was one pivotal moment, and your bonuses, I don't think I would have bought if it wasn't for all the extra bonuses. So that's so crazy. That's what I told you when I met you.
Stack, that was for sure.
When I saw you at Funnel Hacking Live, I was like, dude, you're on my list, man. Like for a long time.
That's awesome, man. Did you come to the event?
Which one?
The one in San Diego.
No, I didn't. I didn't go. No.
Oh, you never made it to that event. Yeah, that was.
I didn't. No.
So at that event, so what we did was, for everyone that's wondering about the bonuses, like what we did was Tony and Dean launched a program about how to build and launch a mastermind, right? And so we said, we're going to give bonuses because as an affiliate, that's what you do. You got to give an incentive to buy through you versus going direct or going to someone else. And I owned mastermindbonus.com, so it made sense that we had bonuses. And what we said was, all these people want to launch a mastermind, but many of them haven't even ever been in one. So why don't we demonstrate a mastermind so that they can be in one, to then it'll be a lot easier for them to sell a mastermind when they've actually been in a mastermind. And so that was our core bonus, was come to San Diego. You're going to come into a mastermind experience so you know what it's like to then be able to sell it. And we threw it was like $150,000 event for us. And we did it up. I mean, we didn't hold back. It was epic. And that's where we had about
a miss on my part for that one, but
you didn't make it. Yeah.
I mean, my girls were like maybe 6 months old at the time, and like there was a lot going on. I would have loved to have gone. Next one, whatever your next mastermind is, Joshua and I are
there. So
just to go ahead. Good, Josh.
Oh no, you finish out that before I go on.
Go ahead. No, I want you to go ahead.
I guess I just got some burning questions, and I want to bring up to, I want you to close the gap between like leading up to where you are now, because we're getting close to time. But I'm super curious. Like, can you close that gap? And I got a few hard hitting questions about things in the online marketing space for you.
Yeah.
After that.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of like clients, and there's a lot of things that like we don't have time to talk about, but
yeah.
We started building out. We built out a lot of stuff with Optimized Press Ninja. We would we were cowboys, gunslinging. Whatever they needed, we would build it and we would price it. We would price one guy this rate. We'd price this person this one. It was just what can they stand to say yes to?
Mm-hmm.
Then I said, we need to systematize this thing, right? And so my first ever day that I ever charged for was Jeremy Minor. So he came through the pipe, and prior to charging for the day, and it was a day of planning. So it's like, we're going to map out your funnels, your offers, your acquisition strategy. We're going to map out how you're going to be able to build, launch, and scale a 7 to 8 figure business. Like that was the whole premise of this day, right? Before that, I was doing that for free. I was doing strategy for free. There's many clients, I just did it for free. And I was like, here's what we can build. Here's what I would build here, and then I would just give them a proposal. I was like, hold on a second. Why am I spending all this time building a proposal for something I might not land? Right. Mm-hmm. So I told Jeremy came to me. He's like, listen, he's like, I do well in sales. I, do 2.5 million a year or 2.4 million a year. I've taken 20 people under my wing to train them how to sell more effectively. And they all have given me video testimonials. You can see them. Here they are. I was like, cool. Like you make good money. You have evidence that you're an expert. You have the evidence that you can help other people also produce like results that you've been able to produce. He's like, now I want to become the next Bryan Tracy. I want to be world known, and I want to take my $20,000 one-on-one coaching program and make a course. I was like, cool. I was like, well, we can help you with that. But the first thing we got to do is we got to do a day together in San Diego, and we got to map this puppy out. He's like, cool. How much is it? I was like, it's only $5,000. Never sold it before. He's like, all right, where do I wire the money? I was like, oh shoot, that was too low. Like that was
Yep.
way too easy. That was the first and ever time it was $5,000. Immediately,
Yep.
the very next one was 10.
Yep.
Like, and so, so Jeremy's brand, it's now a multiple million dollar a month brand, and he has technically.
How did you meet Jeremy? What year was this?
That was like 2016. I want to say
Okay.
2016. Yep. We formed a partnership. I was a business partner, which I never typically did. I typically was like a service provider, not a business partner. I was 20% equity ownership in the company. I literally set the company up myself through LegalZoom, and we built out a webinar. We built out a challenge funnel. We built out a course offer, and that's all we sold. Up for the first, like literally first 11 months, we had nothing to sell but low ticket offers and a course, which was the biggest mistake ever. But I let Jeremy not build a high ticket offer into the sequence of offers because he was still selling, making $200,000 a month, selling for someone else. For first 4 months when we launched that, he said, I'm going to keep selling because I'm making $200,000 a month. But he's like, once this proves to be profitable, I'll quit that and put energy over here. And so 4 months in, he was like, all right, this works. I'm done. But it wasn't until like 16 months in that we actually rolled out a 25K offer. Mm-hmm. So that was we built a like over 100,000 person database in that period of time, but we had nothing high ticket. And he quickly realized, because his premise was he's going to make millions of dollars selling a course, automated, right? He didn't realize that his course was going to pay for his acquisition. Mm-hmm. And his back end was where he was going to make his profit. He didn't have that realization. So
yeah, that's crazy. You say that.
The big lesson for him was high ticket. You need to have a high ticket. And I tell that to everyone now. It's like your front end is for acquisition cost. Your back end is for profit. And it's where the real impact is going to be made. Mm-hmm. Because the higher the price, the higher the pressure to produce. The higher the pressure to produce, the more likely they're going to get the results that are going to be award-winning or meaningful, right? Yeah. So I always, like, my first starting point for experts is you need to dial your high-ticket offer in and get that ready and get it systematized and ready to scale so that then you can come in and add your lower ticket front-end acquisition campaigns that are going to feed your back end. Like now, my agency, I have zero acquisition cost in my agency.
So this is like 7th level, right? This is
So
okay.
the company that we formed was called 7-Figure Sales Training. Mm-hmm. It was 7figureSalesTraining.com. And then he I'm not going to publicly talk about the shit of it, but he did some things that weren't legal and started 7th level.
Oh, gotcha.
And it's easy to, whenever you're pioneering and trailblazing an industry, you get too gung-ho sometimes and you're just like running it and you're like, look back and you're like, oh man, yeah, I pillaged that.
Yeah. So we
have Caleb coming up.
He's a good sales trainer. I would say he's a great sales trainer. Not the best business partner, but great sales trainer, really knows his stuff. I learned a lot from him. I spent weeks at his house with him, co-creating the whole brand and the whole offer and many of the offers that we rolled out. So there's good things to say. It just wasn't a good business partnership. That's all.
Yeah, we have Kayla coming on the podcast tomorrow.
Yeah.
Nice.
So
yeah, we just met him
with her actually.
Yeah, so actually where Joshua and I met, the sales team that we ran together, I think Joshua, you were Kayla's replacement, right? So she had just left and you had came in as her replacement. Yeah. Yeah, cool.
Yeah, that whole NEPQ, I co-created that with Jeremy.
That's crazy.
That was our brain children.
That's wild, man.
We're in the process of working with Matt Ryder right now to innovate something in the AI industry. So that's pretty interesting. You
Love
know,
AI. AI is
dude, we'll
changing.
have to jam on that, man. I
We'll have
have
to
so many
jam on
questions
AI
for
stuff
you.
for sure.
yeah,
Yeah,
let's do
yeah.
it.
Well, so does that bring us full speed? Your full journey to where you are now, like, or is there's a bit of a gap that you want to bring? Because
There's still
I want to leave the. Sorry.
there's still a lot more, but
I feel
just
like we need a part two, regardless of like
yeah,
jamming
I do
out
too.
behind the
for
scenes.
sure. We need like a
There's
part
so
two.
much, and
Yeah.
we gotta talk about the book. Like, I love that you co-authored it with your wife, man. Like, that's definitely a big
Yes,
goal for me.
my wife is a boss when it comes to selling high tickets. She sold over $120 million herself, one-on-one on the phone without video, one-on-one, no group calls, nothing. She is a
Dude.
gangster. And she sold in the corporate world for 8 years, did 100 million there. And she got trained by the best corporate sales training people
Mhm.
to sell education. And so what we did was we merged. Her and I are God miraculously brought us together. First of all, that's another story that we should talk about on part two, because God ordained us being together. There's no other explanation for it.
Oh man, I got goosebumps. That's awesome. I love it.
And so when I broke up with my ex, Megan, she, our relationship pivoted to like family. We became like friends and family, and only God could do that. But God did that
Hmm.
because God showed me the way to handle the relationship in a way that in the world wouldn't have dealt with it that way.
Exactly.
Hmm.
But God showed me a different way that He wanted me to do, and He blessed me because of it.
That's
And
awesome.
when I broke up with her, forced to break up, uh, God said, "I have someone better than you can think or imagine." I was like, "Well, I don't even know if that's possible, but okay." And then and then I met Stephanie in 2016 on the beach in Kauai, Hawaii. Is a prelude to that on the episode. But yeah,
Awesome.
the book is really our combined expertise of selling online one to many, and then selling one to one, selling high ticket. So that's really like to really help people to stretch their mind on what's possible, because you can
Mm-hmm.
do $1 million in a month with one funnel and one offer, right? I've done it in an hour. I've done it in a day. It's more than possible to do it in a month. Like a month is a
When
long
I
time.
first told Joshua about the book, and I'm like, I just ordered this. I'm like, dude, it's my first product that I've been able to consume since back then when we were doing the mastermind stuff. And I'm like, he's like, dude, $1 million in 1 month with one offer and one funnel. And I'm like, yeah, we're gonna do it.
Yep, it's
So,
possible. So the real like the big thing I had was when we wrote the book, it was um, the vision that flashed before me was the number one, and then one funnel, one offer, 1 million, 1 month. But it's really to stretch people's minds to what's possible, right?
mhm.
Because a lot of people think that making $1 million in a year is hard, or making 10 million a year is hard, right? $1 million a month. Most people think that $1 million a year is hard, right? And I felt that way too. Like until I cracked $1 million in a year, it was hard, Then you do $1 million in a month, then you do $1 million in a week, then you do $1 million in a day, and it's like, oh, okay, like there's success leaves clues here. Like
A recipe.
there's a recipe, and once you figure it out, like it's like printing. It's like you have your own printer, you know.
Hmm.
Mhm.
But it all boils down to this, my friend. You one great narrative, great offer, and then a great funnel. Like those are the three major components. I always say you're not we're not one funnel away. You're one great offer away. That's the ticket
Yeah. I
to.
mean, we're two out of the three, but the narrative isn't part of the marketing yet. So,
And then
um,
here's the other thing, which you guys
offer
will
crushing.
appreciate.
It's
You'll appreciate is
clients, but
the dance between the front end and the back end. And most people, there's no dance. It's a disjointed high school prom date. It is awkward as ever, right? So when you really get this you crack the code on this whole thing, you'll realize that there needs to be the dance between the front end, which is the narrative, the content, the advertising, and your front end offers, to the back end, your high ticket offers. And
Yep. The journey, right?
there's a dance between the two. And if you can figure out the dance, and I've been in rooms with high level people that don't have a dance going on, they're still trying to figure it out. So, but when you do crack the code, I'll tell you, there is a dance between the front end and the back end. And if you wire it right, it can be a well orchestrated dance. And that's the key to being able to scale to, like now my vision is like, I have a campaign. I want to do 100 million in 12 months. Like that's my targets now. Right. And I think we can do it.
No, you can, man.
Yeah.
Based on everything you've accomplished up to this point in your life, I'm excited to see it happen for you.
Yeah. We're working on it. It's coming down the pike very soon. So a lot of
Absolutely.
excitement, as I'm sure.
Well,
and I definitely want to talk to you guys a wrap on what you're doing with AI. So
Yeah, for sure.
cool.
So, like I know we're
Let's,
gonna have to schedule the second episode for sure, man.
yeah.
So we got some more stuff to talk about on there, so that we'll save it for that.
Yeah. I
yeah.
mean, yeah,
So,
there's so
hey,
many things I can talk about, but yeah, we need more time.
yeah, let's do it. We'll get, so for everybody watching, listening, we're going to have a part 2 coming very soon. So be on the lookout for that. We're going to call it here. And, use the next couple minutes just to kind of, hang out behind the scenes. So we'll see you guys next time.
Don't forget to get his book. Oh man, he jumped out.